Before I start, I think perhaps I can describe in one phrase how Malaysians feel today about freedom of speech in this country. And this comes from a saying that is supposed to have been made by a great leader. He said, "I can promise you freedom of speech, but I'm not sure if I can promise you freedom after speech." Interesting topic tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Time is of the essence, so I'm going to get straight to it. When we speak about scandals, when we speak about laws, we look back at the system that governs us and we ask ourselves what kind of a system we have. In this country, we have what is known, for those of you who don't know, a federal constitution. And this constitution sets out powers that are given to various institutions so that they can actually enforce laws in order to protect the public, in order to protect the state, and of course, at the end of the day, in order to preserve those rights that are enshrined in our constitution. Now we have the Attorney General. The Attorney General has powers, very, very great powers. And these powers are given to him under the Federal Constitution. Article 1453. Article 1453 says quite simplistically this: the Attorney General has the power to institute, conduct and discontinue criminal proceedings. So at the end of the day, here you have one individual who is given all that power to decide whether or not an offense has been committed, and of course, if an offense has been committed, whether or not the person who has committed the offense should be charged. Now what do we have in Malaysia, ladies and gentlemen? We have an unusual situation. We have an unusual situation where there is an investigation which involves the Prime Minister himself. This is common knowledge. All of us know that there are allegations that monies went into his account, personal account. All of us know that it's a huge amount of money. All of us know that we have laws that govern abuse of power and possible corruption in this country. All of us know that there was a special task force that was set up in order to investigate this, of course with a view towards coming up with an answer as to whether an offense has been committed, and of course, if that be the case, then suggestions for action to be taken. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this special task force was something very unusual. Never before in the history of this land have we seen a case so great that it warranted this task force to be set up, in which four most powerful individuals were roped in to consider the facts of the case. We had the Governor of Bank Negara. We had the Attorney General, or the then Attorney General, Sikani Patel. We had the Chief of Police, the IGP. And of course we have the head of the MACC, the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission. They investigate. And of course, during this investigation, there are calls from our leadership to have patience, they say. Be patient. Let them investigate. You must trust the special task force. I remember as Member of Parliament, I asked many times, I said, first you tell me, under what provision of law is the special task force set up? Of course, the usual silence, because they don't have an answer. Now, if there's no law that governs the setting up of a task force, then equally there is no law which sets out the role of the task force and the powers of the task force. Of course, we come back to the main figure there, who is the Attorney General. You got the police, but you know, Malaysians and our police, I think I don't want to go into that because they may be irrelevant for the purpose of discussion tonight. But more importantly, we have the MACC. Malaysians putting their full faith in the MACC. Malaysians hope us in Parliament in 2009 and subsequently amendments to the Act would actually deliver. Deliver. When I say deliver, what do I mean by deliver? Ladies and gentlemen, we always speak about Malaysia having a problem because prosecutorial powers are reserved to the Attorney General. I think most of you here are quite used to the discussion or the complaints made by us in the opposition that the power of prosecution should actually not just remain in the hands of one person. We have argued for years now that powers of prosecution should also be given to the MACC. Why? Because to us, that will ensure that there is actual independence when it comes to them having to make a decision. This is a classic case in which we see the sense in the argument that we have raised. This is a classic case in which we see why it is so important that powers of prosecution must be taken out of the hands of the Attorney General alone and given to an independent body so that the Attorney General of this country itself can be put in check. But ladies and gentlemen, what do we do when you have a government that doesn't listen? As a member of Parliament, I can tell you this, Tony, Rafizi, Hanipa, we go to Parliament and we fight. We speak up. Most of the time they hear us loud and clear, but nothing happens. Nothing happens. I think, ladies and gentlemen, Malaysians did themselves a great favor in 2008 when they made sure that Barisan Nasional does not have two-third majority in Parliament. Because I think if they had had two-third majority, there would have been substantial amendments to our federal constitution today. But we come back to what I was saying earlier. So there is a problem, and there are institutions, and there are laws which govern the position. It comes back to enforcement. Enforcement. Do you really expect the MACC to act? To what extent do we Malaysians really believe that the MACC would have pushed its way through with the Attorney General? Made a stand, demonstrated courage, told the AG, look, this is the position, let us make our investigation public. Let the people decide. You don't want to charge, up to you, but let them decide and let them judge you. There lies the problem. Let me ask a few questions. I think Dato' Paulo, our great minister of, what was he called again? Integrity, I think. Yes. Yesterday he said, I think he was upset that some bloggers had attacked the MACC. I think at one point he described it as an apple. Right? The apple of his eye or something like that. Fine. Let us ask him a few questions. I mean, if you want to defend an institution, then you should be prepared to answer questions which relate to the institution. On the 16th of August 2015, Malaysia Kini ran a very interesting article. This was an article that quoted a member of Parliament who said in an interview that the Prime Minister had to take out certain people because there were rumors that a charge sheet had emerged. This coming from a member of Parliament who held position in UMNO at the time. So, you have someone actually saying it. Look, we have to remove because, there may be a charge sheet. Complaints were made to the MACC, often concerning this. Now, if you look at the MACC Act, it is quite clear that if anyone who actually holds public office makes a decision in respect of a matter in which he has an interest, that could amount to abuse of power. Let's take the case of Anwar Ibrahim. Ladies and gentlemen, you still remember, in 1999, Anwar Ibrahim was convicted for abuse of power. At that time, he was charged under the then Ordinance 22, I think, 21 or 22, which is basically similar to the MACC. Abuse of power. As Deputy Prime Minister, it is said that he directed some police officer to do certain things, and they said, of course, it was a direction on a matter in which he had an interest. He was convicted and sentenced to 6 years imprisonment, if I'm not mistaken. There's precedent, there's a judgment by Justice Augustine Paul, reported, in which the judge says that that particular provision applies to not just minister, but by extension to Deputy Prime Minister, of course for Anwar Ibrahim. But Augustine Paul went one step further. He said it also applies to Prime Minister. So there's authority. Now let me ask you this question. The MACC is aware of this. They are aware of the fact that complaints have been made. Have they investigated this? Now my question to you is this. Before an Attorney General can make decisions in respect of prosecutions, shouldn't the question of propriety of his appointment be dealt with first? Simple. But here it is. We raise it in Parliament, masih dalam siasatan. Masih dalam siasatan. But that is what they do. MACC must answer. Then we go one step further. We allow it to continue. Then we have the AG now, the current AG, Tan Sri Apandi Ali, who comes up with a statement. He says, as far as I'm concerned, I've studied the evidence, and now I am deciding, and I've got the press statement here, right? He finds various things. The short of it is that the Prime Minister has not committed any criminal offence, and therefore no charges against him. We are all Malaysians who sit here and listen to this. Dato' Ambiga said earlier, this makes, she said, the law look foolish. I think it makes Malaysia look foolish. And as Malaysians, we cannot accept this. We should not sit back and accept this. We should question. We should ask questions. We should demand answers. The MACC must tell us. You have one of your own panelists, Lim Chi Wee, former president of the Bar Council. This is not coming from me. So all the police officers here who are recording this, remember I said Lim Chi Wee. Of course we'll defend him for free as well, no problem. What did he say? He said that there were problems. Number one, he said that the Attorney General should have given assistance through what is known as the Mutual Assistance Agreement. Now ladies and gentlemen, we have what is known as the Mutual Assistance in Criminal Matters Act 2002, and in this particular act there are provisions that have been made for the Attorney General to request foreign states to assist in investigations. So for example, if there's something that happens abroad and we investigate witnesses abroad and they give us statements, we don't stop at the statements. We don't take those statements as the gospel truth, because any investigation which is credible would require the investigating officer to check whether or not those statements are true. So which means that if someone said something overseas, we don't stop there. We ask for assistance, we get documents, we check and verify whether or not what they are saying is true. I'm not sure what Lim Chi Wee meant when he said that the Attorney General ought to have assisted. I'm not sure. But I think this is something that the MACC should tell us. Why are they keeping quiet? Why is there this deafening silence whilst one of their own panelists speaks up? Former Prime Minister says one or two things, straight away investigations, criminal defamation. I don't like him, let me tell you that. I don't like Mahathir Mohamad. But when a man does something that is right, we have to say it's right. He's speaking up, he's asking those questions which all Malaysians want to ask. So the MACC must answer. They must tell us, what are they doing? Why? Why is there silence? Number two, that is one, mutual assistance. Number two, we have what is known as a press statement from the Attorney General. Unprecedented. The Attorney General in this case not only found that there is no criminal element, which means that there is no criminal charge, but he went on to say this, the last paragraph of his press statement. Based on the facts and evidence as a whole, I, as public prosecutor, am satisfied that no criminal offence has been committed by YAB PM in relation to the 3 investigation papers. I will return the relevant investigation papers to the MACC today, and in bold, with the instruction to close the 3 investigation papers, in brackets, NFA, which I know what it means. It means no further action, and I don't know what KUS means. Does the Attorney General have the power to do that? Article 1453, to my mind, does not give him the power to do that. I may be wrong. I may be wrong, but I don't think I am. Let me ask you these few questions. Number one, if we in Pakatan Rakyat, or Pakatan Harapan, if we take over in the next elections, and we appoint our own Attorney General, is our Attorney General not allowed to review the file and to decide for himself whether or not there is a case? Of course he can. He can. A second example. Assuming there is a case today which involves the most vile of facts, a sexual offense, grievous, brutal, but there's no evidence now to link anyone to the crime. Can the Attorney General close the file, NFA? And in 20 years' time, when DNA evidence comes out to show who the perpetrators are, what do you tell the victim? Do you say to the victim, sorry, file is closed, nothing we can do? That would be a grave injustice. And I don't think that that is what the framers of the Constitution intended. There is no limitation when it comes to criminal prosecutions. So my question is this. Alright, you don't have prosecutorial powers, fine. We are fighting that for you. We in the opposition are fighting for the MACC in Parliament. We defend them in Parliament. We want them to have more powers. We want them to have independence. They don't, fine. They can't prosecute, fine. But why do they cave in and sit back in silence when they're given directives like this? Which law prohibits the MACC from going to court, taking the AG on and saying to the AG, look, we may not have powers of prosecution, but we can take you to court to ensure that you don't go outside of your powers. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow, so I know you're looking at me, tomorrow, the AG is going to meet the MACC. I'm sure you read in the reports late yesterday evening. Nobody knows what the meeting is about. But let us resolve here. Let us send a message to the MACC. Let us tell them, show us grit and gumption. You want Malaysians to believe in you. You want Malaysians to believe you are transparent and that you are prepared to fight till the end in the cause against corruption in Malaysia. Tomorrow when the AG sees you, tell him to retract this direction. say to him, you, sir, have no power to make this direction, retract it. And say to him, give us permission. In fact, as a matter of law, I don't think they even need permission from him. But say to him, explain, as Lim Chi Wee said, give reasons, convince the people that there is nothing that warrants further investigation. And ladies and gentlemen, the topic of discussion today, rule of law. As a lawyer and a lawmaker, let me just say this. There are rules in place. But if those people in power do not enforce them, nobody will respect the system. And if people don't respect the system, then you are not going to be able to control society. You may have a book that is on the high shelf in the huge library, which reads as a title, Rule of Law. It doesn't mean that there is rule of law. People need to feel the rule of law. People need to see the rule of law. People need to respect the rule of law. And the only way this is going to happen is if those people in power enforce the law as it should be enforced and make sure that it applies across the board. We will continue fighting. We've always fought. We don't give up. The fight goes on. But now and here, let us, the end of it, remember the words of a great politician who walked this land. In the last speech he made in Parliament, remember, always defend the Constitution. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.